I was busy trolling Facebook. You are listening to Chicagoland's finest podcast. The all-new Culture Cast begins now. And we're back with an all-new episode of the all-new Culture Cast. I'm your host, Nick, and with me tonight, after being gone for like a million years, it's...
Cousin Charles snapped
Yay!
back into reality.
He's back. I don't remember what the last time you were on, but you've been for a while, you jerk.
It yeah, it's been a hot minute. Like many of our fellow culture casters, planning a wedding takes time and energy. But I'm back.
Yeah, I think the last time you were on was February when we did the founder.
God was oh God, was that really? Is it really that long?
Yeah, I'm looking
Wow.
back. I mean, I don't know if there's something in between there, but yeah, it's been quite some time.
Yeah.
You've been
What
missing.
year is it?
Is it 2019 still? Yeah, it's been a while since you've been on the show, and
Hmm?
in that time, and I guess since we had our last episode the other week, Kiwi and Jen did an episode on Game of Thrones. It's some show no one's heard of, and
Yeah.
since that time, the Gorehound has had his baby, and
The Gore Pup.
I'm not sure what he's going with. Either the little ghoulie or the I thought there was another name. The goblin, the little goblin, maybe. I don't know. Well,
Ooh.
when he gets back on the show, which I'm not expecting him to ever come back on the show. We'll see. But I'm just being honest. He'll never come back. But
The Gorehound getting called out. Wow.
I don't know. Well, he's on hiatus, but I think that hiatus will be like to like 2099 or something. Marvel reference. Anyway, we'll see when he ever gets back. But and he could tell us what he's going to refer to his offspring as.
Yes.
But
Well, there isn't there like the seed of Chucky. You could have like the seed of Gorehound.
that would be yeah. I would. I'm sure he would be all for that. But I'll let him decide because it is his kid. So you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, today I almost want to just jump right into it because there's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about Avengers Endgame, and I'm going to
Mhm.
spring this on you. I think we should probably also talk about Infinity War because you really can't talk about one without the other. And
No, and they really. No, I completely agree, and I wasn't. And I'll be honest, going into tonight's episode, I wasn't sure if it was just. I kind of had a feeling in the back of my head it was going to be we're going to do both because it makes sense, but at the same time, there's still a lot to kind of talk about. Even how many months has it been? Like it came out in what April? Hold on, I got a poster
late
nearby.
April, yeah.
No, that's just his IMAX. I thought the poster said when it was, but yeah, it was. I mean, that's like the movie of the summer, and it came out in the middle of spring. And I think
Yeah.
probably in a couple of weeks you'll probably get it on, your home media, all your DVDs and Voodoos and whatever the heck people are watching movies on now.
Yeah, I think it comes out in like in August sometime.
So you get
Also,
all your Avengers.
yeah, also we should say that we're recording this episode July 18th, and by the time this episode posts, San Diego Comic-Con will have occurred, where I'm sure Marvel's going to have a huge presentation, and probably half the questions and things that we're going to be wondering about will be answered. So that'll be so if you're like, no, that's not what happened. They said this at Comic Con. Well, it's before Comic Con, so lay
Yeah.
off. Maybe next week we'll have a Comic Con review of everything, but that'll be
Ooh,
that'll be a discussion for another. Yeah.
I like the idea. So, uh, good sir, would you lead us into tonight's journey? Or I'm trying to think what the old Marvel comics called, like
Journey into
Tales.
mystery, or
Yeah, or Tales to Astonish.
tale to astonish,
Exactly.
or tales to suspense, tales of suspense. I
Ah,
don't know.
it's something like that.
I can go on, but I'll stop. So, okay, so we have Infinity War and Endgame, which is the culmination of 10/11 years of these Marvel movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which seeded a long-term story where we have the uber villain Thanos, who wants to wipe out half of life in the galaxy because of overpopulation, essentially. So he's collecting these stones, these gems that have been in the popping up in the various Marvel movies, and together he can pretty much do that. And so Infinity War is him collecting these stones, and then Endgame is him is after the stones have been spoilers has been after the stones have been used and how everyone reacts to that. So
Yes.
I think that's a quick summary there. First, let me ask you, what was your initial opinion on Infinity War?
When Infinity War when it came out, I remember me and Megan. She doesn't have a name yet, but we. I kind of remember going into it sort of. This was going to sound kind of. This is going to sound kind of weird, but not as excited as I thought it would be. If you know what I mean. Like it's kind of like, yeah, the Marvel movies are coming out. Oh, here
Is it
comes Infinity
because you're
War.
a DC fanboy?
Well, I
Hashtag
did get
release the Snyder Cut.
well. Warner Brothers did. The check did clear from Warner Brothers today,
Did
so
the check clear?
but that's
Great.
for yeah. Do I like this now? No, but so going into that, going into it, I was like, okay, I have a pretty good idea based on the last couple Avengers movies, which I'm counting Captain America: Civil War as an Avengers movie because
It
for all
was.
functional purposes, it was. So I was excited for it, but I wasn't like some. I know there's some people who are like salivating at the mouth for it, and after seeing it, yeah, I was completely blown away. I was like, wow, this actually works. Like a lot better than it probably considering the kind of task that the movie had to do, which is basically, okay, we have to begin to wrap up over a decade's worth of storylines across multiple like sub franchises. Make sure that every character gets enough screen time so that way they feel like that way they have a presence in the story, and and tell a satisfying tale in 2.5 hours. So leaving the theater again after the Thanos snap was, and after seeing that movie, I was like, wow, that was really good. Like surprisingly really good, considering that the last couple of like Avengers movies were like, oh yeah, there we go again. You kind of knew what to expect. So I was surprised by what they were able to pull off, I will say.
Okay. I I had a different perspective on it. I liked it. I enjoyed it, but it felt like a bit of a mess of a movie because pretty much it's like a kid dumped out all of his action figures and mashed them together, and that was your movie. Not to say that it didn't, have stuff going on or anything, but it was like at the end of it, if Thanos did not have the snap where he killed half the cast, I don't think people would have cared about the movie. Like, oh, okay, it's another Avengers movie. Yay! Like, I don't know. They should not have called it Avengers. They should have called it Thanos the movie because
Yeah,
it was his movie.
Thanos: The Purple Knight Rises or something. Um, I mean, honestly, with both Infinity War and Endgame, kind of like in context, this being like a couple months after both movies have had their chance to sort of kind of get used to in like the pop culture like knowledge of, or like cloud, whatever you want to call it. I Endgame makes me appreciate Infinity War more because I feel like Infinity War was a much tighter told story from start to finish in terms of in terms of managing everything. Because Endgame kind of goes a little bit all over the place in terms of what it has to do, because it's like, oh, this is after the snap.
Well,
But I feel like Infinity War is
I
focused.
I will say that Endgame is it does feel like a couple of movies mashed together. Like there's first the Fallout, and then there's like the time heist, and then there's the battle with Thanos at the end, which yeah, it does seem kind of like it switches gears a lot. But to me, it just felt like the stronger of the two entries, quite honestly.
See that? Yeah. I'll kind of toss my hat on the Infinity War side as
Well,
being
you're
more of the
wrong.
yeah. Well, this is the internet. Um, so I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to find my Reddit, so I subreddit to support me. So
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, together they work. It was an interesting move that they decided to. A couple interesting things they decided to do because they filmed these movies back to back, and that they decided, okay, we're going to kill off the two characters, or they're going to kill off all our characters, and or not all of them, but half of them, because that's a good hook. Like, well, how are they going to get them back? The one thing that annoyed me so much between the year that Infinity War came out and that Endgame
Endgame was released.
came out. Yeah, like you had all the. I'm not talking about like the mainstream outlets who may not follow comics or may not have that sort of background knowledge. I'm talking about like the specific nerdy entertainment websites like
Right.
Bleeding Cool and comicbook.com and Superhero Hype, how they were like posting articles about Endgame and even to extent the new Spider-Man movie, and they're like, I don't know how
Hmm.
they're going to like they're going to bring these characters back. Like, I can't believe they're showing a preview for the Spider-Man movie when he's dead in the movie. Like, doesn't that spoil the movie? I'm like, are you stupid? One, everyone knew that everyone knew they're making a Spider-Man sequel. Spider-Man is a
Well,
license to print money, and two, of course they're going to bring the characters back. The problem with movie making nowadays is like, especially these mega franchises, like all the contracts, all the some of the behind the scenes stuff, it's so open and public because of the internet that there's no surprises left. Um, like it's like, of course, do you really think they're going to let someone like Spider-Man or Black Panther or the
right.
Guardians, which were all like extremely popular movies, they're just going to let them die, never to be seen again? No, of course
Right.
not. Of course not.
No, yeah, no, I had I mean, I gotta agree with you 100%. Like, the moment I walked, it was literally the moment I walked out of the theater. I think I heard a couple of people whispering in the audience that exact same thing, and then to see all the articles in the following weeks afterwards, like, oh, what's gonna happen to the MCU now? I'm like, has anyone read a comic book?
They'll be
Like,
fine.
characters, yeah,
It's
characters
like
die. They're cloned back. There's another exact version from an alternate dimension that takes their spot.
which
Something
actually
always
happens
happens.
in Endgame.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah.
Like
Um,
I mean,
so it's like,
even if they never read a comic book, I mean, they should know like, oh, there's a man they killed Spider-Man, but there's a new sequel coming out. Wait, they're only going to make one Black Panther movie? That's weird. It made like a bajillion dollars. Yeah, that's money left on the table. Of course, they're bringing them back, just from a logical standpoint. I mean,
sure seemed like Doctor Strange is getting a sequel, but I guess not now that he's snapped.
yeah, it'll be all about Wong, but
Yeah.
Wong. But like that just like annoyed me to no end. I mean, you don't have to go on and say like, oh yeah, they'll come back, but you'd be like, wow, how are they going to bring these characters back? I mean, I know Marvel is being tight-lipped about what's going to happen next in the next couple of phases of movies. But let's use some logic. That they're clearly going to make a Black Panther sequel. They're going to make they're making a Spider-Man sequel. They want to make a Doctor Strange. What's any other friend? They want to make Guardians 3, even though that was in
Yeah.
question when they fired James Gunn for making pedophile jokes. But then it hired him
Yeah.
back for making pedophile jokes. But
That's
uh,
capitalism at work, baby.
yeah, like I guarantee you, when they fired James Gunn, they're like, "Listen, we're going to fire you for like 10 months, but then we're going to hire
Hmm.
you back. But we just have to do this for PR purposes, because by in the
Yeah.
next couple of months, no one will care anymore." Which is exactly what they did.
Also, also in the next 10 months, you're going to go work for our top competitor and develop a rival film that could, easily steal some of Guardians 3's box office numbers. Just to keep up appearances.
Okay, here's okay. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. I'm sure like James Gunn was like, well, can I still make other movies when you planning on doing Guardians 3? And like, listen, we don't know. Let's get through Endgame stuff and then we'll figure that part out. Um, because like with Guardians 3, it's going to be a very different landscape given the events in Infinity War and Endgame. But here's the thing: him doing the sequel to Suicide Squad, one that's only going to bring goodwill towards DC, which DC would love because they want to get back on track, and it seems like that ship is starting to right itself. But also, when you have quality superhero movies that people want to see, they're going to want to see the other superhero movies. Like, oh wow, is there going to be a movie out with a fun, quirky group of superhero characters? Oh wow, there's a Suicide Squad. If it's good and people enjoy it, like that was fun. What's going to be in a few? Oh, Guardians, another movie that's similar to this. That's good. I'm going to see that because I like the other one. Of they
Yeah,
all feed off of one another. Like this weird rivalry that says that like Marvel wants to make sure that DC fails, or that Marvel wants to make sure that uh, blah, 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 Dark Phoenix fails. No, they don't want them to fail because all it does is if you have a quality product, it'll enhance the other products down the line. You like that
right.
one? Well, you can go and see this one. Like Batman versus Superman coming out a few months before Captain America Civil War coming out, which were basically the same movie in terms of premise. Those should
Right.
feed off of one another. But
Right.
the fanboy
Good.
mentality, the worst.
Well, it's. I think a lot of people. I think. I think there are some people who kind of take. I'll call it. I'll dub it right now. I'll call it the baseball approach, where it's like, well, and I'll use our hometown of Chicago. Well, if you're a fan of the Cubs, then you cannot associate yourself anything with the White Sox. You can't buy. You can't go to any of their games unless it's a crosstown rivalry. You can't do anything. You know, they think like if you support one, you gotta ignore the other. But
Well,
I have to agree with you that I'm going to see probably both. Just like I saw both Captain Marvel and Shazam.
but I mean they feed off of one another. That just irritates me. But and you're right. Like if you're a Cubs fan, you shouldn't have any animosity towards White Sox fans. Now, if you're White Sox fans, yes, fuck the Cubs. You shouldn't have anything to do with the Cubs. But they're the worst. They're garbage. But no, I mean you're right. I mean these it's a like the rivalry is only in the minds of these hardcore fanboys, and
Hmm.
there's a small minority that likes to type negative things on the internet, probably from Russia. But
Most likely right. Uh, yeah, unfortunately that minority is that point of like fanboys are unfortunately the loudest. So it
hmm
makes it seem like that's the overarching opinion. But um, let's see. Let's get
what are we talking
let's
about again?
I don't know, some sort of superhero movie. Um, I don't know. Let's get back. Let's get off the soapbox. Let's get back to the closing chapter of. Are they calling it sagas now? Now that
I
it's like
I don't know.
like
They're right now. They're the first three phases are now is now being referred to as the Infinity Saga. Even
yeah,
though like a bunch of movies had nothing to do with the Infinity Gauntlet or anything. Can't forget how important Black Panther was to the Infinity War storyline. That
yeah,
movie set it all up.
yeah. They that's where the Wakanda forever, all that good jazz.
Um, yeah, but that's what they're calling it, the Infinity Saga. Um, yeah, let's yeah, and then I guess what they're planning on doing. I mean, who knows if they'll do an overarching story with the upcoming movies or if they'll keep it low key. Low key.
Uh,
um,
that
but they're I'm sure they'll reveal it after this podcast goes up at San Diego Comic Con. So we'll see. We'll see.
because correct me if I'm wrong. I think what was it last year that they didn't really have a Marvel didn't really have a presence at Comic Con, and then so I think this year I think a lot of people are going to be like, okay, what's next? What's on the docket? Because I've
Right.
heard they've announced some projects which I'm like it's like okay, the first sort of we'll call if we're going to call these waves of movies or with characters that I already kind of had a running knowledge of like okay, I know who these generally are, what their backstories, but I think they're I mean, they're going now. Marvel's like, okay, now we're getting really weird because are they announcing like an Eternals movie and
Yeah, they're
there's someone
def
like doing it.
they're I don't want to talk too much about this because it'd just be mindless speculation and be really going off topic, but we really don't know what they're doing other than there's been talk about wanting to do Eternals. They're going to do Guardians 3 and Black Panther 2 and maybe a Doctor Strange 2. Um, they're clearly going to make a Captain Marvel 2 because that movie made money. And then they're filming right now a Black Widow movie, which I guess is going to be half sequel, half prequel to where the Marvel universe is right now. So
Yeah,
that's how we can get Scarlett Johansson in it because she died. Spoilers. Um,
everybody, and I'm pretty sure everybody in America saw Endgame. If you're watching if you watch like the box office numbers, like how close Marvel is to being the number one movie of all time. Which, quick aside, I didn't realize Avatar was actually that popular back in 2010. That it actually is that up there.
well, a couple of things about Avatar is that when it came out, it was how do I put it? It was a unique sort of situation in that the story was very mundane, but it had the pushing new type of technology, the 3D, which people were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Ooh, what is this about?" Because this is the first time 3D had been done in real 3D, not post converted or anything. Like James Cameron made brand new technology for Avatar, and on top of that, ticket sales for Avatar and its 3D, the ticket sales were more expensive because people went to go see it in 3D. Now the 3D fad has really gone by the wayside now. Really don't see much of it
Mm-hmm.
promoted as the way it used to be, which I'm thankful for. But
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of factors at play that caused Avatar to be as popular as it was. Plus, there's also inflation. So you have like a good 10 years of inflation from the Avatar prices and Avengers Endgame prices. So yeah, it was definitely a cultural moment. They want to make like 90 sequels to Avatar, which
yeah,
are people going to care 10 years after the fact? I can't see them caring. Like they Cameron should have struck when the iron's hot within the first 4 years or so, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't see it being successful. At least not to the way where it's going to warrant like five sequels or whatever they're going to do. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, yeah, but that's a conversation for the conversation for a different game.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
Now,
yeah,
Endgame.
Endgame. Yeah. So I guess we're going to be big time spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
So just get them all out of the way. Iron Man dies. Thor gets fat. Captain America gets old. Rick is saved by a helicopter. Bran is the new king of the Seven Kingdoms. Uh,
Snape kills Dumbledore.
Rosebud was the sled. Get everything.
Snape, Snape kills Dumbledore.
Snape kills Dumbledore. Um,
And Kevin Spacey was Kevin Spacey was Sizer Jose the whole time.
Damn it! I haven't seen that movie yet. Thanks.
Well, sorry about that, man.
Did he molest anyone in that movie? Because it is Kevin Spacey, and that's his signature. Hey
Hey,
what?
we're staying topical here.
Come at me, Spacey. Come at me. No wait, he might want to. Never mind.
Hey,
Um, so uh, they try to wrap up a lot of 10 years worth of storylines, and because a lot of the actors' contracts were going away, they need to wrap up their these characters. So they did a lot of like the last half hour of this movie is like 3 hours long. I will say it did not feel like 3 hours. They kept the pace going pretty good, so I gotta acknowledge that. That's a well done movie. And I liked how they wrapped up the main characters' story arcs. We'll touch on that in a little bit, but I think it was ballsy that they did a time jump at the beginning of the movie, like 5 years later. Like I was not expecting that. Like
yeah,
I thought it would be like a couple of weeks went by and then they stopped Thanos, and like everyone came back. But no, it's like they had like for a Marvel movie they actually had consequences. It's like, huh,
right.
okay.
Well, most movies and TV shows will have whenever they need to show that time's passed. There's always something that I've noticed. It's kind of like the ambiguous 6 months.
Hmm.
Oh, it's 6 months since our last adventure. The whole setting's changed, or stuff like that. Like a lot of shows will usually do that because it's like, oh, that's a good length of time. Like lots of time can pass, but like not too much time where it's like crazy long, but just long enough.
Hmm.
But I will say I did when the moment they popped up the title screen that said 5 years later, I was like, wow, this is a giant screw you to all those fanboys who were complaining about the Marvel timeline because I think a lot of it started with Spider-Man: Homecoming, where they were like, wait, when did? Because I think they say it's like, okay, so there's like the prequel with the Volt, where like you have the Vulture. It's like it's supposed to be like right at the end of the first Avengers movie. Things like,
Right.
you know what?
It's like
But
7 years
let's go
later, but it doesn't line
right. And
up
like
with like Civil War or something like that.
exactly, and they think in Infinity War they kind of straightened it out. I think they had Tony Stark say something. It was like I'm paraphrasing, but it was like Thanos is my because
Yeah, he's been in my head for like 6 years or
6 years.
yeah, something like that.
6 years or 8 years, something to line it up where it was like, okay, so Infinity War is taking place in modern day, is taking place in like the modern day in 2018. I think it was something like either 8 years or 6 years. I can't remember. I'll have to go back to the tapes, but somewhere kind of like, okay, so Infinity War is firmly taking place in our present 2018, and then now, okay, well now everything's taking place 5 years in the future. So screw you if you tried keeping track of what year everything was taking place in. So
Right. Well, they were able to
uh,
reset it. So now when the movies come out, it would be like, okay, this is 5 years from now. And so that gives them their wiggle room. When we get to like 2023 or whenever it's supposed to be, it could be, Peter Parker could still be a high school kid in that time, and because we've
right,
caught up. But
right, he's caught up to the 5 years or something, or
yeah,
uh, but yeah. So that was kind of the one thing that I think was an interesting thing to do. And the other thing that I think was really kind of like, kind of talk about stuff that happens in like the first part of the movie, is the fact that they pretty much well established. Well, the Infinity Stones are gone.
hmm
Yeah, you don't get the quick get out of jail free card, which I thought was like okay. I think that was the first thing that threw me for watching it the first time in theaters. That was the first thing that kind of I think threw me for the loop, which like, oh, okay, so what are they going to do now? So I kind of liked how they resolved it. It's like, well, we can't go back in time we can't reverse what Thanos did necessarily, but we can. There's another way to do it, which I thought that was a pretty clever kind of like or kind of like fix to the whole problem.
Yeah, I like the idea of the time travel. I like how they set the rules up early on, which for the longest time, that's how Marvel time travel kind of worked, um, where you can go back in the past, but it doesn't actually affect the future that you came from. Um,
Right.
but I like how it gave them an excuse to revisit past films and revisit past characters that would not have otherwise been able to be worked in. I think it's very interesting that of all the movies they chose to go back to, Thor: The Dark World was one of them. Um,
Yes.
but I guess they wanted Rene Russo to pop up once again, which was nice to see her. But like that was an interesting decision there that they like of all the movies. That seems to be like the next to like the Incredible Hulk. That one seems to be like the least favorite of the Marvel fans is
Yeah.
the Dark World.
Right. It's like the least memorable. It's just like, okay, which film left the least amount of impact on our cinematic universe?
Right.
Well, we're about to make it one of the most important movies in our universe. So
Right. I mean, I was thinking about like where they could. Not to say that they did anything wrong, but it was interesting that when they chose to go and get the different stones, because I feel like there could have been other times they could have gone to get this sort of stuff. But it's a movie, like whatever it is, what it is. But um,
you gotta because you could always say, well, couldn't we go to before the stone? If we know where the stones were hiding for all these years, couldn't we go to where they were discovered before? You could always come up with a million things of how to do it, but at some point you gotta be like, okay, we got a movie to make here, people. We gotta keep things interesting.
right. Um, and I'm very like time travel. I love time travel movies, but what bugged me is when they're fast and loose with the rules. And I liked it that they said, okay, whatever we do, it won't affect us as long as we put everything back to where it came from. It shouldn't affect that timeline either. Because like when Thor took his hammer and um,
Uh,
like the stones, although it does raise the question of what happens in the timeline where old Gamora and Thanos and all of them are now in the future, and well, Thanos is killed, and Gamora is bad, I guess. Again, I don't know, because it's like the Gamora before she joined with the Guardians. So I guess we get to see that love story happen all over again. Great.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, well, Gamora turned girly at the end because she was part of all the Marvel Girl Squad attack, or I think
True.
in the comics
Like
I think they call it A Force or
A
something.
Force.
Yeah,
E.
A.
Um.
But but
She was, yeah, because she went against her father there, but yeah, but she's not with the Guardians. She doesn't really like Peter Quill, I guess, or I don't know. We'll see where Guardians 3 takes us, but
do you
um,
think they're going? Here's a quick aside. Do you think they're going to actually have Thor in Guardians 3? I hope so, or at least in some sort of like maybe not as like a main cast, but like I hope he does at least pop up in there. So I don't know because I know there is supposed to be a fourth Thor movie,
right, that was just
but
announced. I
yes, no,
I would be surprised if he wasn't, because I think one of the things people liked with the uh, Endgame and Infinity War was Thor's interaction with the Guardians team. So
Hmm.
if they don't include him in the next Guardians movie, that would be a missed opportunity. I think maybe he won't
Yeah,
be as like maybe they'll just be a small part of the movie. Like, all right, well I'm going away now. Thanks for the lift, but like I don't know,
right.
it'd be weird just not to have him in it at all.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, where are we at?
So we were talking about the time travel, and I appreciate a good time travel heist. Like I like going back to the first Avengers movie, where
Mm,
not only did it play into what happened after they captured Loki, but you get to see Robert Redford pops up as the villain from Captain America 2, which was nice to
yep,
see him pop up, and they played reference into that Hydra was in control of Shield at the time, so
exactly.
they were able to
Yeah,
get the different things.
and I think that was I think that was kind of a good way to also sort of include some of the kind of that whole Avengers, Battle for New York sequence. I think that was a kind of a clever way of including some of the more famous images from some of the other Marvel movies, such as the elevator fight scene and the
Yes.
ancient ones, like kind of like okay, pushing you out of your body, because I think that was like one of the big highlights from Doctor Strange, which I kind of look back at, I was like, that was kind of a good way of sort of incorporating those movies without overtly going, well, now we're at the Triskelion again, or now we're back in the whatever temple Doctor Strange took place in.
Right,
You
yeah,
know,
they were able to kind of reference back things without actually referencing back things.
right.
No, yeah, that was yeah, I liked a lot of that. So I mean, I did enjoy the time heist thing.
Mm.
I liked the battle at the end. I don't know, it was a very efficient and effective movie in that regard.
Well, because I remember at one point, do you remember like the months leading up to Endgame? I remember online there were like rumors, oh, Endgame gonna have an intermission? 3 hours. That's a long time for a movie. People gotta pee. Um,
Uh,
and but and kind of watching the movie, I think I know where they would have put in an intermission if they decided to do one. It would have been right as they're go. I don't know what like time stamp of the movie it is, but it's right when they first go back in time, where they're all kind of like the bunch of jackasses standing around in a circle,
oh,
um, getting
like
ready getting ready to go back.
see you in a few moments. Zap intermission.
Yeah, like that. Like I could easily be like, okay, and we're gonna put the intermission in right here. And then you just play clips of Stan Lee for like 5 minutes while everybody goes to the bathroom.
Hey, true believers, do you think I invented all this? No, I just took credit and let other people do it. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think it needed. There have been other movies that have been longer that have not had intermissions, like the Lord of the Rings films. So it was fine. You didn't need one. Apparently, there was like articles though that said like if you need to go pee in the middle of Endgame, here's when you need to do it because nothing will happen during this scene. So
Yeah, I think it was. Well, I think it was the two that I remember. It was like the Hulk in the diner, and then the Hulk giving a taco to Ant Man or something like that.
yeah.
And honestly, those two scenes are very kind of close to one another. There's like once they go back in time, like it's pretty nonstop. Like they just like the first half of that movie is like pretty slow. The characters kind of like where they're at, how they're
Hmm.
dealing with all this, and then it's go time. Like there is no like after the balls to the wall, the movie is just going for the next. God, I think like 2 hours. I think that may be like 2 hours. I remember at one point, Megan. It was some point. I think either right after the time heist finished or right before it. Megan was like, "There's another 30 minutes to this movie." I'm like, "How? This movie is like still going."
Um, yeah, well, I think I don't know. That didn't bother me so much because I think it segued into each section. I mean, yeah, it's very
Yeah.
compartmentalized. I like that beginning portion because I really think it set the tone of how like bad things were. If we jumped like right into like the time heist stuff, then I don't think we would have gotten like that sense of loss. But
Plus, yeah. Plus, it's also because well, one, I guess it's another spoiler, but I'm figuring if you're hearing this podcast, you probably have already seen the movie. You know, killing killing off Thanos in like the first 5 minutes. it kind of takes away that kind of like that world-ending threat that Infinity War had, which is like Thanos could be anywhere, he could be coming around right now, and I think it definitely helped allowing just these characters to be able to live their lives and be able, for better or for worse.
Mhm.
And I think that was a really smart move, especially if this is kind of like a swan song for for like so many of the actors.
Right. I thought it was a good move to kill off Thanos there, just
Mhm.
because it was unexpected. Um, uh, Having his past self come back to, I think the only reason they did that because they realized is we need someone to fight at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because there's really not like a villain per se. It's just kind of like, oh, what are we going to do? Bring Thanos back because they needed him out
Yeah.
of the picture for him to come
No,
back
because
at the end, and so
yeah,
they like,
and definitely, I mean, I know a lot. I think some other articles that I saw had posted this, but definitely, even though it's the same even though it's the same character, it's two completely different Thanoses. Like,
mm-hmm,
you know, like you would not because again, I really wish I could cite my sources, but I remember reading somebody and said like, you know, I think it was right around when Justice League had come out, and people were like, you know, oh, it was like something like, wow, Justice League made me appreciate how well Marvel did Thanos because here you have a big CGI villain that in Infinity War that was complex and deep and had moments of that kind of made you care about him and kind of want to see him get the Infinity Stones just because you're like, you know what, I want to see what happens. Go get those stones. Versus the Thanos in Endgame, which is I'm gonna kill everybody with my giant two-bladed sword. Which again is, I mean, you kind of told Thanos' story within the first 5 minutes of Endgame, being kind of the closing part of Infinity War. So you kind of have to do something different, which is the
mm-hmm.
classic, I'm an intergalactic conqueror. I'm big and strong, and I'm going to hit you hard in the face.
Right.
Um,
I don't know how, like, if the way they set up Thanos at the end of Infinity War, like, his mission was done. He's all good. They destroyed the stones so the Avengers can have an adventure. You need to have the
right.
Avengers actually avenging for a change. How about that? Um,
Uh,
so, and to do that, you need Thanos out of the way. But then at the same time, once they bring everyone back, it's like, yay! But that's not a satisfying ending. It's a superhero movie. You need a big battle, and you need to have all the characters come together for the big battle because this is the payoff of 11 years worth of movies. You need someone for them to fight. If you're going to bring someone new in, it's I don't think that's going to work because uh, you built up Thanos after so many movies. You need another face off with him again, and like so you had to bring him back somehow. Having like old Thanos be there with like his like screwed up arm and everything, that's not threatening. He
he,
has no army, or I don't think he has an army anymore. Who knows? But I don't know.
dude just old Thanos just wanted to sit in his hut and make some soup. That's all he wanted to do.
I'm
Um,
sure young Thanos wanted that too, but he's like, "Ugh, I gotta fight these a holes. Fine.
yeah, I gotta destroy another planet. Um, although I was as you were saying that, I was thinking like if they had to introduce somebody at the last bit, like a giant world-ending threat. I was thinking like somebody just shows up. Who are you? I'm Kang, the Conqueror. If which I feel like is probably going to be
They might use that character, but they'd be like, okay, why should we? If they used any other character in the story that they wanted to tell with Endgame, they'd be like, it would have Marvel villain problem. It will have Marvel villain syndrome, where it'd be like, okay, here's just a guy to fight. At least with like young Thanos, there's still that connection and knowing that, hey, we know what he wants, and if he gets these stones again, then all hope is lost again because he could be like, snap, everyone dies. Snap, stones are dead. So I mean, and then they're at the square one again. But
right. But yeah, I will say, what was your reaction when you're in the theater when kind of like you know right after right after it's after that battle with Thanos and Captain America, and then you start seeing all those portals opening. Because I'll be honest, I kind of had a little bit of. I haven't had this in a while in a movie, going to a movie, but just sort of like a sensory overload of like, oh my god, holy shit! Like, just look at everything that's on screen at once. Like, I don't
Um,
know. Did you have anything similar to that, or?
Here, you want to know what my thoughts were honestly with that part? I was like,
Uh,
why can't this be a DC movie? Because here's the thing, I like Marvel. I got nothing against Marvel. I'm not one of those anti Marvel fuck. I don't care. But I've always been a DC kind of guy. I grew up on Superman, and I've always DC characters always appealed a little bit more to me than Marvel characters, and I would have, as much as I complain about the Marvel Cinematic Universe being bland and overly generic and guy get as 4 quadrants, guy get bring it all in. I realize the work that's gone into it, and the fan in me, the little kid in me, would have loved to see this as like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all of that. And I really wish, like, I wanted that to be like a DC moment, like to have like all the DC like Flash and Green Lantern and Superman, Aquaman, and even the more obscure characters like the Question and Guardian and the Newsboy Legion and the
yeah,
Legion of Superheroes and like all of them pop up. I would have been like that would have been like that's amazing. Of course, we won't get that anytime soon, given the way how Warner Brothers is structuring their DC films, which is fine. I'm not complaining about how they're doing it. It seems like it's working for them. But
a lot better than it was before. I mean, holy crap.
I still have yet to see Batman v Superman and Justice League. It's on my
Oh,
DVR, but I've just not had the energy to watch them. But but
uh,
then again, I also think about is, and part of me wants to. Ever since Endgame came out, part of me is like, man, I should buy this. Is do you remember a couple years ago, more than a couple years ago? You were probably a kid at the time, so maybe you were watching when you were younger. The Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon.
yes, yes, that was. I remember being obsessed with that when it was on like Cartoon Network and when it
Yeah,
was on Cartoon.
I
Yeah, that was like that was my shit. That was my favorite show.
I watched the show when it was on Netflix back in 2012, 2013 because I'd never really watched it before. And especially when we got into the unlimited years, um,
Mhm.
they had like the overarching story and like the last couple of episodes kind of formed I think a storyline comparable to Infinity War and Endgame with the villains teaming up and Darkseid getting the anti-life equation and Lex Luthor involved, and I mean it felt like it like built to like this epic climax. And if they ever did a live action Justice League cinematic universe or anything like that, I would be like, well, they kind of covered this ground already. They already did it, and it worked. It'd be tough to replicate for 2 reasons.
Or just,
One, they did it so successfully in Justice League, but two, like inevitable comparisons to Endgame and Infinity War would.
hmm and I agree with you 100%. Like, because it's, I mean, it's kind of like this is kind of also, I guess for the whole genre as a whole, is how are you going to top this? How are you going to try to make something that's because I mean, this is like the end of 10 years of hard work. This is our big
Hmm.
finale. It's the end of the fireworks show. We're going to hit all the buttons. It's like, how are you going to make anything that's as sort of like visual, like, because I'll be honest, we live in an age where like kind of like we can create anything. We can create any sort of visual thing that you can think of and put it on screen. How do you top something like that final battle where it's just like you have this and I really do call it sensory overload of just like everything happening at once, and it's all very interesting. It's not dull. It's not kind of like, I've seen it. You know what I mean? It's yeah, because I think you are right. Like eventually, if down like a couple years down the road, we do get like a Justice League movie that has like that level of quality of just like here is every hero that we've ever put on screen. The closest I think I can come to is maybe like the CW shows,
Sure.
which they try to do that. But I remember when we did the invasion or the Crisis on Earth X,
Hmm.
and it was like, oh man, so the Nazi Earth is invading, but it's only like a handful of blocks in Vancouver that are really being affected. Not quite the
Right.
same impact, I mean, the story idea is there. Of like, oh man, they're going to try to take over our world. But yeah, definitely, you feel like the smallness of it all. And I do wish that there was. I mean, I absolutely agree with you 100%. I do wish that we could see something similar of just as grand, as big. But it's like, now that the cat's out of the bag, it's like, can you do anything that's as big, as kind of like fresh and original? Now that you know, you know, Marvel sort of hit it out of the park on the first try. Really, I mean, something of this scale and something of this kind of ambition.
Right.
I mean,
It's
got to give credit where credit's due.
all right. I'm not saying that a lot of the hard work. I don't want to dismiss what Marvel had done, but and the CW shows they can only do so much because they are a television show budget. But man, I am curious how they're going to pull off Crisis. I'm looking forward to whatever's revealed at Comic Con this upcoming weekend. Because I'm all in on Crisis of Infinite Earths. This is the little I know it's going to be like a 5 hour event across all the series except Black Lightning. But so I'm
Oh
all
no,
in on that. But
I'm thoroughly like that's kind of honestly I hate to there's part of me that hates saying this, but I hope they stop the cross. I kind of there's part of me that's kind of like don't do any more crossovers. You kind of hit your peak. Like I don't see. I agree with you. Like this is kind of like the one that they've sort of been building up to. Like it's the DC storyline to adapt. If you want to go
hmm
big and bold and kind of like we want to do something fantastic, this is it. So
right.
no, but that's gonna be a podcast for a different day and
Right.
hopefully a few.
We're totally going to do the Crisis podcast in 6 months' time or whenever it actually airs. So stay
Mhm.
tuned for that. You know what else I'd like to do for a podcast? And maybe we'll do that sooner rather than later. I don't know. But I don't think DC had to do it this way. But if you were put in charge of DC comic films at Warner Bros. And they said, build a cinematic universe like Marvel did, how would you do that? Let's do that as an episode in a couple of weeks here, where we make our own DC universe and see how that gets played together. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on
I'm
that?
gonna have to get. Let me get. I'm gonna have to start getting a pen and paper and work that out.
Yeah, start putting notes together, and we'll figure it out. But anyway, this is not about DC Comics. It's about Marvel Comics. We're running a
Yeah.
little long here, so I want to wrap this up soon. But one thing I do want to talk about is the fates of our various characters, or
Yes.
and unanswered questions. I guess we should start with unanswered questions because it ties in with the fates. They had the shot during the battle where all the female characters came together, and they're like fighting the bad guys. Wouldn't that have shot been so much cooler if Black Widow was there?
Yes. Definitely agree. I
Black Widow
think you are
having
not
been
alone in that opinion.
Yeah, Black Widow having been killed like an hour previously in the movie.
Yeah. And considering that well, Gamora showed up and she's been dead for 5+ years now, so I definitely agree. I definitely kind of agree. I definitely agree with that, considering that they easily could have done it. They could have been like, Hulk's like, oh, I tried snapping her back, and he doesn't believe he did. Then, surprise, surprise, here she comes.
hmm
It could have happened, which is fun, especially again, going back, considering that they want to do a sequel and stuff like that or do a Black Widow movie finally. Um,
Maybe
I mean,
they'll bring
considering
her
that's
back.
just been
Maybe they'll bring her back that way. Maybe like she'll just
maybe
show up like at the end of that movie, like I'm still alive, and be like dun
right.
dun dun. Stay tuned for Black Widow Part Two.
Yeah, she faked her own death. She faked her own death to a mystical magic rock.
Yeah, but
Um,
so there's that one. Whatever happened to the Hulk Black Widow romance? Remember how that was a thing that completely has been ignored?
Infinity War kind of addressed it a little bit, just kind of like the sort of awkwardness, but definitely it was one of those weird. Joss Whedon's got an idea, and he's gonna, and you know what? Disney gave him a blank check to make whatever he wanted. And he's like, I want the Hulk and Black Widow to have a thing going on. I definitely agree. It kind of sort of pittered out, especially considering that 5 years passed, and assuming that Bruce was back on Earth for those 5 years, even though and all the stuff that happened in between, you kind of wonder a little bit.
Right. That's a good
Uh,
point. I didn't think
but
about that.
Yeah. Plus, he's
Um,
got that Hulk body. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, let's talk about that. So in Infinity War, there's this big mystery that Hulk can't come out. Why isn't Hulk not coming out? Like there's one part where like he's trying to Hulk out, and Hulk's like, no.
Right.
That's never explained what happened. It's just when we see him in Endgame, he's like, well, I fused Banner to Hulk, and now we're this. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, then why'd they make a big deal about you not being able to Hulk out?
Yeah, it definitely. I know probably when making, and I'm sure this is probably, something that will probably, maybe we address it, in, what is it, Hall H or something like that at Comic Con. But definitely I kind of have to agree with you on that. Just kind of like, because Infinity War is definitely, well, no, not even Infinity War, but like, I remember reading somewhere they're like, well, we're starting a little trilogy story with the Hulk, starting in
Mm-hmm.
Ragnarok, going into Endgame, and definitely I have to agree with you. They're like Endgame showed the conclusion. Like that's probably the natural, conclusion that storyline of Bruce is no longer fighting the Hulk. They're instead of opposing each other, they're going to be one. But we just never see that moment. Instead, it's just, oh yeah, I spent a couple months in the lab, and now look at me. It's like,
Which I would that'd be fine if that's what happened. We see 5 years later and he did this, but it's just kind of like why have that mystery of Hulk not being able to Hulk out and not like address it? Like that was so weird. I
I
don't know.
think it was. I think it was probably the same reason why Captain Marvel showed up 5 minutes at the beginning and then 5 minutes at the end. Because if you have a giant green monster, um, going through
That's
half your story,
yeah,
go through.
that's something else. Like I remember they made a big deal. Like Captain Marvel's the key in Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
She's barely in it. I was expecting her to be like
No,
in it way more.
well, I know. I don't know if you had this reaction, but I know after Infinity War, everyone's like, the next movie is Captain Marvel. Is they're like, oh man, Captain Marvel. I bet we're going to learn something. I bet it's going to kind of tie into Endgame a little bit more. We get maybe because it's set, before kind of like, it's set in the '90s or something like that. That where maybe we'll learn a little bit about Thanos and his plans for Earth. Well, something to kind of lead into Endgame, which besides the little teaser at the end, it really didn't. And then
Hmm.
once the Endgame came, it's like, okay, Captain Marvel's here. We know all about her. I bet she's going to be a great addition to the team. I bet she's going to, kind of all that fun stuff. She's going to go back in time. Nope. She's like, I got other things to do. Bye. Until she just shows up at the end. I think Megan's mom had made a joke about like, because I hadn't. She was like, "So did Superman show up in the movie?" I was like, kinda." At the, I mean, Carol basically pulled a move that Superman would have, taking out the big ship or the big thing in like one shot.
Uh,
So,
Charlie, cousin Charles,
uh,
I know that Superman doesn't kill people. He snaps their necks.
yeah.
So
Well, it's the quickest way to go.
he just takes like the ship and like snaps the neck, like done.
Yeah.
Um,
Everybody just
but
Batman and Green Lantern just looking at each other like, I don't even know you could do that, but I guess here we are.
um,
Um,
yeah. So and
that was
let's now talk about the biggest, one of the biggest unanswered questions of the Yeah, you know it seems quaint the whole fight between Captain America and Iron Man and how like that was like we had the big fallout because Bucky killed my mom. They don't care
yeah,
about that
no,
no more. But the biggest thing
no,
was at the end of the movie when old Captain America mysteriously shows up
yeah.
breaking the rules of the time travel as depicted in the film.
Yeah, that's definitely. I honestly think they were hoping people wouldn't notice. Like, I think they were like, well, it'll be a great moment. People won't realize how this completely negates everything we've spent the last 2 hours built learning about time travel.
I don't. It's a fun moment. I don't mind it too much, but like you have to give it some con. If you're going to intentionally break the rules of the clearly established rules of your own movie, like at least like say like, oh yeah, I'm actually not the Cap that left. I'm from a different universe that popped over here, but was basically the same thing. As contrived as that sounds, I don't know. Just so you get an idea of what happened to our Cap, or don't even have Cap show up at all. Just be like, where'd he go? Where'd he go? And maybe just have
Maybe
this.
just the shield.
Yeah, just the shield comes back and with like a note like, I'm staying in the past with my lady love. You're you
Right.
you're the captain now. Um,
Yeah, you are.
and
Which that
I
whole.
don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't
Well,
know.
I was gonna
Like
say,
just it that it was a cute sentiment, but I'm like that doesn't make any sense.
right. Because I get the idea. It's like, well, Cap just stayed in the past and he aged up to the present. But the way that the movie sets its rules up, you would age up to a different present, not the present that that you originally came from.
Yeah, he'd essentially be in an alternate world, alternate universe.
Yes.
I mean,
So it.
if the implication was that Peggy Carter was actually married to Steve Rogers this entire time, then it breaks like a bunch of other continuity and earlier in the films where Peggy was like, "Steve, you're still alive," when she was an old man. He was visiting her during Winter Soldier, and then at Peggy's funeral, like if Peggy's husband was still around, wouldn't he be at the funeral that Steve Rogers was the pallbearer for in Civil War?
Yeah.
Um,
I I
uh,
remember. I think someone said online there was like I think in the Peggy Carter funeral thing. There's like a shot of someone from the back that's like kind of got some like gray hair, and people are like, "Is that future Captain America?" It's like probably not, because I don't think they were thinking, "Oh yeah, Cap's going to age himself up through via time travel." That's probably just an extra that they got to and now people are
just
just
a,
trying to grab at straws
right.
essentially.
One thing
But
that's interesting is like when interviewers are asking like the directors and the writers, like they flat out refuse to answer that question. They're like, "Well, that's a story for another time," which translates to I don't know.
we didn't think that far ahead. Um, and there's actually kind of, or go back to character resolutions, or kind of go into things kind of that the movie sort of ends and leaves us with. And I'm only saying this because I'm getting paid by Disney.
Right.
So I know they're doing that, you know, Disney's own version of Netflix, and they're going to have a couple of the Marvel shows. Not like
Yes.
those Netflix Marvel shows where we kind of forgot that they existed,
Well,
or the ABC shows.
they were boring AF, so
But Endgame kind of secretly set up all three of those shows because I think, well, one, there's one that's supposed to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, which basically is going to be, it's going to be a Captain America show because,
which
they're both going to kind of try.
if the rumors I've heard about the show are correct, I would sign up to watch that because it sounds like they may be adapting one of my favorite Captain America storylines. So that would be exciting. Yeah, and like with the Loki thing, if he escaped, people think that's going to be his show.
Hmm.
Which
Which I've heard is supposed to involve Loki throughout like human. I've heard rumors supposed to be like Loki throughout like human history, which kind of goes a little bit against what the Thor movies had, where it's like, well, we Asgardians never really were on Earth, or never really paid much attention to Midgard. You know what I mean? Because like know some people said, well, the reason why they talk more modern in like as the Thor movies go on is because they've lived on Earth more, or something like that. Which that would kind of be contradicting if Loki's always been kind of on Earth, but whatever.
it's Loki.
Not
He can do whatever he wants.
exactly.
So
And then I think the last one is like the Wanda Vision, where they kind of, I mean, well, Vision's dead, and
hmm
like he did not get snapped back. He is in the ground.
yes,
Uh, so, but so I don't know how they're going to do that, but they kind of at least sort of set up where Scarlet Witch is at, which just kind of like I kind of made that sort of like the I don't know, I don't want to say the person who kind of I don't know, that's kind of like the movie or the kind of like the business movie critic side, like, ooh, I wonder how this is going to tie into this, and and honestly, there should be a part of me that just kind of drowns that off, or just be like, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy this. But definitely that's something I did notice as kind of like the movie was wrapping up. I was like, well, it kind of set up all three of those shows, so like low key. Um, but yeah, and then I'm trying to think of just like because that was the big one was Captain America where he ended up, and then Iron Man's.
he's
I don't know. What do you
dead.
think? Yeah,
I
you
was
think it was
expecting
just
that.
a good way?
I thought he
Yeah.
was going to bite the dust. I mean, the first 10 years have been all about Robert Downey Jr. Of course, he's going to have a big dramatic death scene where he saves the day. I was not
Mm,
I was not surprised by that. I like the scene at the end of his funeral where they have like all the past characters, and then but you totally know that they did not get everyone there for that one shot. They like they piece that
Oh,
shot together in a computer.
right. They're like, okay, you're gonna stand here on the screen and look sad. Um, and a lot of people, I think the biggest one that a lot of people were saying was like, who the hell's that tall skinny kid?
Yeah,
You know, and which I rewatched,
he was in Iron Man
which I
3.
think, yeah, which I rewatched that, and that's still. I know a lot of people have their worst Marvel movies. I think Iron Man 3 is probably that one for me because it just didn't do anything for me, to be honest. Like that's my kind of like low point of the Marvel
It's
Cinematic Universe.
I enjoyed Iron Man 3. It's totally forgettable, but I enjoyed it for what it was. But yeah, like I think nobody remembers that Tony Stark had like a kid sidekick in that movie, and he's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, he's there. It was such a weird
yeah,
addition, like, and then there's this kid, like, oh, I mean, a nice little
yeah,
callback, but still weird.
yeah. Just of all the callbacks you could have done, that's the one you went with. Which I mean, fair enough. But
I'm sure
I
they
mean,
called that. I'm sure they called that kid like, "Hey, you want to be in the next Avengers movie? Because you were in Iron Man 3." And the kid was like, "I was in Iron Man 3? What?"
there was an Iron Man 3. Uh,
I thought that was a fever dream I had.
yeah.
So,
God.
alrighty. Well, I gotta wrap this up because it's getting late and I gotta go get some things done before bed. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good ending to the cinematic
Mm,
storyline. I feel like all the movies that are going to be coming out will cheapen that this is a big ending, but I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out in Comic Con, which will be this weekend, but last weekend when this episode actually airs. So we'll find out, I guess, if they make any big announcements.
I'm hoping for something cool, and I'm still I still have very much as of this recording I have yet to have seen the new Spider-Man one, so I'm very interested to see because I mean the trailers kind of sort of gave away the game, which is like I think the next big thing that they're going to focus on is multiverses. So, but I'm very much looking forward to see. You know, I kind of want to see Far From Home just to see how they're going to sort of how do you keep the Marvel machine going when you've kind of basically you've done everything you could have done with all these stories.
You
So
bring
I'm very
back
much
you bring back Tobey Maguire.
yes. No, you bring you and you and for you bring back Tom Maguire and you bring back oh god
And
who's the guy from that '70s show?
Topher Grace.
Who is Eric? Yeah, bring back Topher Grace's Venom just to really screw with people. Be like, we're going to have our own Venom. Suck it, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy and Topher Grace go on a road trip together. That'll be
There you go.
there's the plot to Venom 2.
We just made Sony.
We made
Oh,
$700 million for Sony right now.
is that how much movie made?
Oh, I don't know. It made a lot.
Oh,
It was very successful.
like I'll put I'll put it on my to-do list. But anyhow, yeah, that's all I gotta say about Endgame Infinity War.
Alrighty.
If you listen to this podcast, I'm 95% sure you probably have seen these movies, but yeah, no, if you haven't, check them out. Highly recommended.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, everyone, tonight. This has been the all new Culture Cast talking about Avengers Part 78. I'm Nick,
I'm Cousin Charles.
and we'll see you next time. You've been listening to the all new Culture Cast, where every episode is all new. Check out new episodes and our back catalog at allnewculturecast.libsyn.com. We could also be found on iTunes. The All New Culture Cast, a saltwater production, copyright 2019. Thanks for listening. Was Captain Marvel better? Because if it's not, then you clearly hate women.
No, but I do love children in a creepy, unmarked van kind of way.
Well, we have our tag.